der Automation Podcast. Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge über Technologien, Trends und Nutzen von Automation.
Wir, das sind Kurt Bettenhausen und ich, Thomas Tauchnitz. Wir freuen uns darüber, dass ihr in dieser Folge dabei seid. Bei uns hört ihr interessante Gäste zu spannenden und aktuellen Themen der Automation.
A very warm welcome to Bill Hookturp, CEO and Chief Architect of LifeHikes. Bill, please introduce yourself to our audience and please tell us what is LifeHikes and what is the purpose of LifeHikes?
Welcome, Kurt. Welcome, Thomas. Thank you for allowing me to join. I'm so excited. Been looking forward to this in the new year. I'm from semi-warm Shanghai today, and LifeHikes really was set up to answer a question, and I'm going to start, Thomas, with you and then Kurt. I want you, since we're thinking about automation and numbers, you can never reduce human beings to numbers. We're too complex. We're too wonderful. So let's do it anyway. I'm going to ask you a question, and what's the first number that comes to your mind? What percent of our human potential do most people leave on the table? First number that comes to your mind, Thomas. First.
60%.
Kurt?
70%.
Of course, it's an unanswerable question. There's no way to even know. It's a silly question. But I've asked it nonetheless to hundreds and hundreds of leaders, and the average is very similar to what you both said, maybe high 60s. Some say higher, some say lower. The next question is why? Kurt, have you go first, then Thomas. Why? And I could think of 100 reasons, but what comes to your mind, Kurt? Why do many people not realize a big chunk of their potential?
Let's use my own example. I don't know what I do not know.
Thomas?
A lack of need and motivation.
Excellent. So it's very different for each person, but there are patterns. And having trained almost 1 million people now in the Own the Room or LifeHikes programs and 130,000 people getting one-on-one coaching, we began to see these patterns that we're all doing well. You know, we work hard, we have good lives, but there is more to us that we are not fulfilling. So LifeHikes is created to say, what can we do to help people reach more of their potential for work productivity, get more done, get a raise, get a promotion, but also find more work joy and joy in life. And that's the larger reason why LifeHikes was created, and we have 50 staff and coaches around the world and growing quickly.
Thank you for this very unusual self-introduction, which gives a lot of your motivation. Bill, can you share a key moment in your life or career that solidified the importance of lifelong training for you personally? When did it make click that you needed?
I had a moment, Thomas, the other day. I was in a conference in Phoenix, and because of my unusual life, I get to meet all the other motivational speakers we also do training for. So Kim Scott joined our board, who wrote Radical Candor, and Simon Sinek, and Adam Grant, and Jia Jiang. And there was a guy who, at our dinner, said something that reverse answers the question you just raised. And his answer is, he said, hunger doesn't get tired. Hunger doesn't get tired. If you're into an industry for the wrong reasons, or if you're into a hobby for maybe not the best reasons, you can get tired, you get burned out. Oh, I'm learning this, but only for this reason. I don't really. But if you really have true hunger, it doesn't get tired. Oh, maybe we get a little fatigued, we need a good night's sleep, but then we're ready to take things again. And I have that curiosity, that desire to build things, develop things, help people. It's kind of always been inside of me, and it doesn't seem to go away.
So you're always hungry, and Bill, there's a follow-up question. In your view, what does lifelong learning truly mean? I mean, beyond the buzzwords, and especially for leaders in fast-moving industries, like automation, like digitalization.
So if we think of it as that package of, is a product, a company, we're capable of this potential, but we're only reaching this much potential. Really, lifelong learning is about the path. How do we achieve that as individuals? This is how happy we could be. This is how happy we are. Oh, well, there's a gap. How do we close that gap? And learning is a part of that developing process. It's an exploring process. And it's not just learning for the sake of learning, but it's really about achieving something because you can, and then helping other people achieve it as well. So to me, it just weaves in and out of all of the other elements of life. It's not just muscle, it's the connective tissue of the other muscles, of the other emotions, of constantly developing and growing.
Thank you. Bill, how does executive coaching complement to formal education and experience? So the people have normal formal education and then they need something else, executive coaching. And what unique value does bring the high performance coaching to the leaders?
Every business person that I've interacted with, Tomas, and I saw a list on Fortune magazine of the top 100 most powerful leaders in the world and realized I've already coached at least 6 from that list, all the way down to regular people and young people. And every person that I've met has 1 or 2 issues that block us from getting to the next level. But these issues are a little different for every person, and they're usually not easy to talk about. There are insecurities, are fears. So for this person, I feel like a fake, or this person, I have an anger problem with this coworker, or this person, I really don't know how to do this part of my job, but I'm afraid to ask. And they won't tell their boss this issue, and they won't tell HR, but they tell a coach. So when they have someone that you can open up to, I think it's as close as we can get in the business world to therapy. What's my blocker? What's getting in the way of me achieving this? Typically, we'll get a call from companies, hey, we've got this executive, we want this person to be the CEO of our company in 2 years, but they have a couple things blocking that. They said they trust you. They want you to be their coach. Well, you work with that person, and sometimes the issues are work-related, sometimes they're outside of work-related, and they're not impossible. The coach has heard it many times before, but to the person going through it, it's really a stick. Think of it like we just finished the holidays. When you have all those holiday lights that get all tangled up so badly that you want to just throw them away, or you have a knot in your shoes, you're tying your shoelaces and the knot is so bad you want to just cut it and start over. Well, that's what coaching is try to untangle the knots a little bit and then make it a little bit easier to solve those problems, to see the real issues, say, what's a different way we can solve that? And then when people have little breakthroughs, okay, now I feel like I've solved that, I can move forward. It's a very nice feeling.
So, Bill, when we get back to those leaders, what are the biggest barriers leaders face when trying to embrace continuous learning, and how can they overcome them?
I think the biggest barrier is thinking there is no barrier. And the biggest fear is not having enough fear. So the idea that we can do more. Many of us, we get too comfortable. I was in China today in one of the conversations, I teased Americans. I said, sometimes we are also a little bit fat, dumb, and lazy, that we are too satisfied. We don't take the time to learn other languages. We don't take the time to build up more of ourselves. And I think we miss out. We're good people, but we're missing out because we're not ready to explore because things are a little bit too easy. If you think how easy it is to get food and how easy it is to get by, where's the struggle? And struggle is often what leads to growth. Struggle is what defines us as humans. Even gravity is nothing but a dance when we walk. It's a dance with gravity. So this idea of struggle is really key to growth. It's key to learning, but you have to embrace the struggle and embrace that uncomfortableness.
Now we live in a time where automation and digitalization reshape jobs and skills. What should leaders prioritize in their own learning and in guiding their team in this time?
I think I have a corny Bill answer, Tomas and Kurt, for almost anything, and one of them is technology, automation, digitalization. I think it's just a trend. It's a fad. It won't catch on. Maybe another 2 weeks tops is like rock and roll. Oh, on the small chance that automation is here to stay, that digitalization is not going away, we have to learn to embrace it. I remember, I think I have the most gray hair on the call, but I remember when PowerPoint came out. When PowerPoint came out, there were immediately two camps in the business world. One camp was, oh, let me figure out how to use this new software so I can make slides. And the other camp's like, my assistant, you make the slides. And they didn't know how to do it. But quickly they painted themselves into a corner because now they have to wait for everybody else to do it. How long does it take to learn how to use PowerPoint? Not very long. You just have to jump in and feel uncomfortable. You feel dumb for 5 minutes, but then it all starts to make sense. That same mindset works on almost every new toy that comes around the corner. And the apps are getting more and more intuitive, but you have to keep the same mindset to jump in. Now, maybe some people like to take a tutorial. Some people want someone to show them how to use it. Some people want to just start pushing buttons and see what happens. But all of them involve having this mindset of quick exploration and never-ending learning. Never stop learning.
So, Bill, beyond this point, are there any daily or weekly learning habits that you would recommend for executives who are swamped but want to keep growing? Anything that reminds them on a daily basis and really helps them?
I got to spend time with Bill Gates. I've got to time spent with a lot of top leaders. And one of the ones that's a little old school is spending an hour a day reading. An hour a day, the top leaders. It's clearing their mind and they're constantly absorbing books, articles, occasionally watching a TED Talk. And in fact, do you know about the Bill Gates week in the cabin example? So what he began to do is he would get like all of us, we would get those books. Raise your hand if you have next to your bed a nightstand with a stack of books that you haven't read yet. Anybody else got that stack like I do? Very good. So as those books stack up and articles stack up, life gets busy. So he would go for a week in the cabin, nobody else around, and do nothing but read books and think. And he said it became a very powerful and valuable annual tradition to clear his mind and really give himself time to look at trends. He now does it 2 weeks a year. 2 different weeks he goes off. And many, many leaders I know do the same thing. Even if it take 3, 4, 5 days, find what your cabin is, but what are those books, what are those things, and just give yourself time to think and decompress. Some people like to do it daily, some people like to do it weekly, some people seasonally. I recommend all of the above. D is the right answer. So giving yourself time every day to read, and that can be articles, that can be watching TED Talks, but just absorbing things. And read with your pen. As you're writing, make notes to yourself. Ask questions to yourself. Oh, this makes me think about the project I'm working on here. This makes me think about something long-term. This makes me think about something we finished last month. But as you are constantly ingesting new content, when it comes to digitalization and software, people need others more than we realized. Having team-based learning is testing significantly better than platform learning. Do you both know what I mean by platform learning? The idea of LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Degreed, Masterclass, these ideas where you watch a video on your own and your own time. Watch videos and learn as much as you can. Well, Jeff Weiner is the chair of LinkedIn's board and a friend, and he told us the numbers were quite bad. He said, even at LinkedIn, we can't get more than 1.8% of our own employees to use LinkedIn Learning, no matter how much we push it. If an individual pays themselves, hey, my company does not pay for LinkedIn Learning, I'm going to pay the monthly fee to get it for myself. I really want to learn. Only 3.8% use it when they're paying for it. So it's like we join the gym thinking we're going to go every day, but then we don't. So platforms are not a failed model in our opinion. They are high quality content. The video production is terrific, but it's just not enough. It's a corner section of the puzzle, but it's not enough to get people to really learn. Team-based learning is testing over 85% completion rate. So imagine the three of us are on a team in a cohort of 60 people, and we're doing different friendly challenges with the other teams. The follow-through is much, much higher because the spirit of the team really gets everybody moving and completing, and we can learn things faster as a group.
Bill, thanks for your answer, and it reminds me to a thing I learned privately. If you want to live in a happy marriage, you should invest 1 hour per week, 1 day per month, and 1 week per year to keep your marriage living. Sounds like quite similar to your reading suggestion. Obviously, that's good for people to reach important goals. Bill, from your experience coaching leaders, what is a recurring mindset shift that separates good leaders from the really great ones?
Any particular category or just in general?
In general.
We all were raised to think that patience is a virtue. But for great leaders, impatience is also a virtue. A friend of mine wrote a book called Blitzscaling. Nice German title for you, Blitzscaling. And Reid Hoffman started PayPal and LinkedIn, and he co-wrote the book with Chris Ye, who is also on our global advisory board. And the premise of Blitzscaling is that speed beats quality. And he goes a lot of case studies in the book. For example, when rideshare apps came out, you had Uber and Lyft and many others, or many companies trying to figure it out all at the same time. And Uber chose speed over quality. If you remember when Uber first came out, it was a hot mess. It was all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues, but they got market share very fast. They got in, and then little by little improved the quality so that it operates quite well right now. Similar with Airbnb. They got out there really fast, millions of problems, but they got market share and then fixed the quality. The companies that focused on quality first didn't make it. So it's a bit of a counterintuitive lesson that being aggressive, just go after it. Joey Ito is a friend of mine who runs a large university in Japan. He used to be the head of MIT's Media Lab. And his example for corporate leaders or people in manufacturing automation was, in the old days, when we had a problem, you create a task force. You do a 6-month study. You analyze it. You present your results to the group, and you schedule. He said, that's not the internet way. The internet way is you have a problem Monday, you build something Tuesday, you launch it Wednesday, it breaks on Thursday, you build a better one on Friday. But that speed really is something that top leaders think. When I did another podcast earlier today with someone who had 300,000 followers here in Shanghai, and they had lighting problems, and they ordered a new lamp, and they ordered a new boom, and it was delivered 12 minutes later. They call it speed of China speed. And so there is, in a world that's changing so fast, take AI, for example. AI is a bit of a superpower, but it's only going to work for 1 year. The things you can use AI to do right now, a year from now, everybody's going to know how to do it. So you have a small advantage, but you have to move quickly to take advantage of openings in the market, openings to learn, and even openings within yourself.
Bill, let's take a closer look at LifeHikes philosophy. LifeHikes emphasizes on holistic development. Can you explain how emotional intelligence, creativity, and resilience fit into lifelong learning?
Yes, we used, I love analogies, and one of them is think of the human body. And most people say learning, oh, it's just content. You just need, well, that's not really true. It's just skills. Skills are very important. So we began to study and look at what are all the different things that affect our ability to learn and grow, and how do they relate to each other. And the best analogy we had was the human body. Content is like your brain. We all want good information, experience, and knowledge. Skills are like your muscles. You have all soft skills, hard skills, but you also need structure. You need discipline. So that's like your bones. So if you think about it for a moment, where imagine you have all the great muscles, but you have no bones, what would happen? It all falls apart. We all know colleagues who have great skills, but they don't have discipline. They don't have structure in their systems. And without that structure, things can quickly fall apart. So our physical health and our institutions and people around us, all of these affect our ability to learn and grow. So the connective tissue is often just as important as the muscles themselves. So connecting the knowledge of what we should do for work, how do we solve this automation problem down on the shop floor, how does that connect to what the market's doing, how does that connect to the customer problem from last week? It's finding these connective tissues which greatly enhance the quality experience for everybody.
Thank you, Bill. Well, there is another aspect of LifeHikes activities I like very much. LifeHikes collaborates with cities in the US and regions abroad where access to education might not be available to everyone. Could you explain what is the motivation and how does it work?
Our motivation for doing it, or the motivation of the kids or the young people for doing the programs? Which one?
Both, if you like.
Both. Okay. So I was lucky in business. I co-founded a company which is now called Raptive, but we originally created 1999 Club Mom, which became Cafe Mom, and it's now a big blogging company, a publishing company. And last month it hit 226 million views in the US. So it's gotten quite large. That company, Raptive, took off 12 years ago, really began to grow at the same time I left the company. And I don't appreciate the obvious implication and the correlation of those two facts. But my co-founders are really the secret to the success. And as we began to think about, half of life is making it. We're all, how do we make it? I want to be successful. I want people to respect me. I want to have a nice title. I want to have a nice this. But the other half of life is giving back. It's how do you help other people to succeed? And we got invited to do some work in Africa, and we had created the LifeHikes Foundation. My majority shares in the company I put it into the foundation since I was already lucky. Say, how do we help people? And the work in Africa fascinated us. This month we are launching our first office in Africa in Nairobi, in Kenya. We hired our first coaches, our first office, and MasterCard Foundation is our partner. And we are training 130 young leaders. And what we're seeing in Africa is the jobs are there, the jobs are coming. The young people have the talent, they have the drive, but they don't have the skills. They don't have the knowledge. And as a company, you're not going to hire somebody that can't do the things you need them to do. I'll give you an example from another program. IBM did a summer program with inner city kids in Boston a few years ago. And they had 60 kids, and they said, let's give them skills. We were not involved at all. And in the fall, help them get jobs. And at the fall, I think that only 2 out of the 60 kids got a job. And the people that ran the program were really bummed out. They were really discouraged, like, oh man, we failed. We really want to help these kids get ready for jobs. They were giving them lots of content. The next summer they did it, but they added a piece, which we were happy to help them with, around emotional skills and the things that you referenced earlier, Kurt, was, for example, the kids would walk into the job interview and they would be like this. Nice to meet you. And we would teach them how to do a good, proper handshake and how to come into the interview like this. Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you for inviting me today. Boom. Which kid are you going to hire? And these tiny little things add up to being quite impactful to give the young people confidence. How do you run a meeting? How do you dress? All the little things that we've all learned along the way, no one had ever taught them. So the soft skills and the EQ part of it really became almost as important part of it as how to use this software and how do you use this automation system.
Bill, compliments for your engagement in Africa. I think I like that you speak so positive about it. Normally you hear bad things about Africa and you show the positive feedback. Very good. What you measure is what you control is one of the standard sentences. So when we speak about your progress in personal development and learning, how should leaders measure or evaluate their progress beyond performance metrics like figures, numbers, revenues?
We think, Thomas, that's going to be one of the biggest sea changes in learning and development. So take any big company and you can measure your finances down to the penny of what we're spending here and there. You can measure your tech, what we have for automation, how to the second how it does. But if I ask you what's the ROI on the people in your company, what's the return you're getting on the people? Most leaders would be like, what? There's no way to measure that. It's only a small budget item called half of the revenue of the whole company. So it's this giant hole in the middle of the budget where there's no real numbers. It's hard to move the needle on an issue when there's no needle. So part of what we began to develop was skill ratings, not certificates. Certificates is the way many trainings used to work, but certificates are on what I would call a spectrum. So off the top, there are some certificates in almost every industry that are very meaningful and very powerful and very agreed upon as gold standards. But all the way down to some certificates, you showed up to a training and it's Wednesday and you got a certificate. And it really isn't meaningful. Everything is somewhere in the middle. Well, we're replacing that whole system with ratings, not certificates. So for example, Kurt has seen our public speaking training, and when you come, you do get tested. You do some videos. If 10 is the perfect presenter or public speaker and 0 is the worst, the average person in the business world is about a 4.1. Not bad, not good. And we rate them by analyzing 21 dimensions. You can take almost any skill and break it into about 20 pieces. So for public speaking, it's openings. How good are your closings? How good is your eye contact? Can you tell good stories? How interesting is your content? It's a lot of different things. But after 2 days of training, the average person can improve from 4.1 to 5.7. If they don't get any follow-up training, 6 months later, they will be back to 5.2. But that's still a nice improvement from where they started. But it's putting quantitative. If you can observe it, you can measure it. If you can measure it, you can improve it. And most adults freak out when they first get rated. Oh, you're going to rate me. But if you do it lovingly and with a little bit of humor, and the analogy is the gaming world. Some of us are gamers. Many of your listeners are gamers. Their kids are gamers. But in most games, you have a rating. And if you're a chess player, you have a rating. And you start out here and you'd like to improve your rating. It's just in the background. It's just part of what you're doing. So in that learning and development space, we're building these ratings If I asked you for your employees, how good is this person at managing conflict? How good are they at selling? How good are they at time management? You couldn't give me exact numbers, but very quickly in the future, you will be able to. They will know their numbers. And we're finding, too, that most people are quite fine when they feel like they're above average. If I told you you're a 4.1 on a 10 scale, most people are like, oh, that sounds horrible. But if I told you the average was 3.9 and you were a 4.1 and you've gone to 5.2, you're like, oh, okay, I feel okay. As long as I'm above average, most people are cool. So there's a whole change in how the space is beginning to think about metrics. And then you have the bigger challenge of tying the metrics of individual growth to the business needs. How does me improving skills make sales go up? How does it make meetings get shorter? How does it improve project management? So you're building the bridges between individual metrics with company KPIs.
So, Bill, let me take some of the pressure away from future trainees of LifeHikes. There is a life after being rated. You can survive this at any time. But Bill, looking ahead 5 to 10 years, how do you see the role of lifelong learning and coaching evolving in leadership, especially with AI and hybrid work cultures?
I did a speech the other day, Kurt, where I started with a body poll. Let's see if you, Kurt, and Thomas can join it with me. Put your hands up like this. Put your hands up like this. And you're going to show me slow. Show me slow with your hands. All right. Show me medium. Show me fast. Okay. Now reset your hands. I'm going to ask a question and I want you to answer it with the speed of your hands. You ready? I'll ask the question, answer it with the speed of your hands. What was the rate of change in manufacturing 100 years ago? What was the rate of change? How about 50 years ago? How about 20 years ago? 10? 5? What's the rate of change today? What's it going to be 5 years from now? So change is not slowing down. So if that's the case, then as humans, we have to adjust to that. In my conversation with the gurus, the top authors in LinkedIn, I said, 99% of the content we need for learning has not yet been invented. The articles haven't been written. The books haven't been done yet. So we can't just plan on what do we do with what we've got. We have to plan on what's coming. So how do we teach young people and older work employees the software that's going to be invented tomorrow? So let's build our system so that when something's coming in, we need to use it. Great. We have a way to learn it. We have a great way to and make people feel okay with it, keep the fun factor up, and people can do it. Now, the amazing thing about most apps now is they're getting more and more intuitive. I remember freshman year at university putting holes in Fortran punch cards in the computer and feeding them, and your keystrokes and commands. But more and more and more, there's tools to make it feel somewhat intuitive of what you're trying to get them to do. There's almost anything you can't pull down a video to teach you, how do I do this? How do I explain to me how to do this? But you still have to have that mindset.
Thank you. Bill, are there any topics we haven't discussed yet which matter for you and which might matter for the audience?
Yes, Thomas, what's the meaning of life? I think we need to address this one. Do you have an answer for me, Thomas or Kurt? What's the meaning of life?
Learning, having children, and passing at least some of the knowledge on to your children and let them develop on their own.
That's a wonderful answer. I like that one, Dr. Bettenhausen. Brilliant. Thomas, what would you add?
I think I would give a religious answer to identify God's will and to follow it.
I also draw a little bit from that faith background, but the idea that we are here for a purpose and we have been given, whether you have an ontological reason, a religious reason why you believe we're here, or a sociological reason, or a psychological or physical reason, we're here. and we have this great opportunities. Why not take advantage? Why not explore our best selves and do it together and help other people and help make the planet a better place? But it's joyful. It's quite fun. What's the fun in just sitting around doing nothing? So building things, creating things, addressing challenges in society, but having fun along the way. Taking time to laugh, taking time to hike, enjoy nature, games, sports, food and drink with people you care about is a really key part of the formula. And if we get that balance right, we can get a lot done and have a little bit of fun along the way.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you.
Bill, with this, we've reached the end of this episode. What are your 3 key messages for our audience?
Invest in yourself. Think about if you have, I'll make it a numbers bank question. Let's say you're 21 years old, both of you, and I give you 10,000 euro, and you have 2 choices. You can put it under the bed, under the mattress, and you can pick the money up when you're 70 years old, because you're 20 now, or you can put it in the bank and get interest. Which one would you rather do, Thomas, Kurt? Which one?
Sure, not take it to the bank. Maybe even more clever ideas than just interests.
So if there's a third option, Bill, 50% on the bank account, 50% for having fun.
Oh, I like the having fun part. Stay with the interest part for one question, and what is the number that comes to your mind? How much interest do you think is fair? Not unfair, but it's reasonable. Oh, if I go to the bank, I could get about this much interest I would like to get on my money. What's the first number that comes to your mind, Thomas?
2% more than the inflation rate.
Okay, so let's call it...
Maybe 4 or 5.
4 or 5. So 5 for easy math. So if 5% is our target, that's your career. So if you're going to put in a 40-hour week, 5% of it should be learning. If you don't do that, you're going to find your 10,000 euro is worth 10,000 euro down the road. But if you put in that 5%, I'm constantly spending 2 hours every week on myself. Maybe it's reading, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's skill training or learning a new app on my own. But when you have a little structure and ongoing, that 2 hours or that 5% of your time compounds over time. So my number one takeaway for all the people listening today is invest in yourself. You are worth it. And the world benefits when you invest in yourself.
So what's number 2?
Number 2, all learning happens outside the comfort zone. Think of it like a big circle. This is your comfort zone. Outside the circle, you're not so comfortable. Well, the magic zone is the outside edge of the circle. It applies to fitness. When you want to do planks or push-ups, it's the last little one that you're uncomfortable that is actually all the growth. When you're studying some information that you just didn't do, an app you're just not quite getting, that little bit of uncomfortableness is the magic zone. The only way, I know we're big hikers on this call, the only way up the mountain is to stumble, to feel out of breath, to skin your knees, to feel a little bit lost. If you're not out of breath when you're not climbing. You're coasting. So don't be afraid of being out of breath. That's the magic zone. So try new cooking things you've never done. Try listening to a music you've never listened to. I'm too old to learn a new sport. I'm too old to learn a musical instrument. Ridiculous. Fortune had asked me to write a column as an executive coach for the world. And the column that's dropping today, no one's seen it yet, you're the first to hear about it, is we may live to 130. And if we do, what excuse do we have that we don't have time to learn a new skill, to learn new hobbies, to learn really fundamentally new parts of ourselves, to back to start what we started the call with, to reach even more of our own human potential.
Thank you. And now, obviously, the third and final one.
Take time for the people that matter. It's your friends, it's your family, it's your coworkers. Take time. Sometimes we work so hard in our digitalization or automation efforts, we don't spend time celebrating. Our German colleagues, you are, I think, way better than Americans at so many different things. But one of the things we can all get a little bit better at is taking time to celebrate, to enjoy. It doesn't have to be long, but those moments really matter. Taking time with our family and friends to say, one of the crazy advice I give a lot of executives is I ask them, how many sick days did you take this last couple of years? Oh, Billy, I didn't take any sick days. I said, I don't like that answer. I think you're working too hard. And I'll say, who matters to you the most in your life? And they'll think about it. Oh, this person, my spouse, or my child, or this person, my family, or a close friend. I said, if you, let's say you have a kid this age, and I said, if you were to, a few weeks from now, play hooky, you call in sick for a day, take a PTO, and you pull your kid out of school for a day, and you go do a magic day, whatever that magic day would be for you. Hiking, you know what they know what you like, do something amazing. How long do you think they would remember that day? Take these days with the people that you care about. Take these days for yourself. Don't be afraid to sleep in. So I'm giving everybody homework. I'm your guest for one more little bit. I'm giving everybody homework. More sleep, more ice cream, more joy. And the hard work productivity doesn't go down. In fact, it even goes up a little bit. Because when we take better care of ourselves and the people around us, we can even achieve more.
Thank you very much, Bill. It was a great pleasure for us having you as an international guest in our podcast.
Well, it's my honor to join both of you. A big fan of what you're doing. It's super, super cool. Thank you for allowing me to join.
And for me, it was not just a podcast session. It was a kind of training, coaching. Thank you. Schön, dass euch diese Folge bis zum Schluss fasziniert hat. Uns hat es Spaß gemacht. Euch hoffentlich auch.
Wir freuen uns, wenn ihr auch bei der nächsten Folge wieder mit dabei seid. Bis zum nächsten Mal beim Automation Podcast.